I make a TikTok for all 51 episodes of Digimon Tamers, and it's time to talk about episode 31, Kazu's Upgrade. And more so than anything else, this is the most Digimon Adventure episode of Digimon Tamers that there's been, at least so far. Everything about the basic plot in this episode feels like something that could have been written for the original Digimon Adventure. The essential concept here is the Tamers stumble upon a conflict going on between one large Digimon and a group of small ones, with one other, at least leveled up Digimon, trying to defend them. And they decide to get involved with this to help the good Digimon defeat this big one and learn something about themselves along the way. Of course, the something they learn along the way in this one is Jerry can be a serious tamer. We have the episode starting out with Rika telling her she has to be more serious, this isn't just a game. And then Jerry gets kidnapped.
Your service pleases us.
Thanks. I always do get the biggest tips.
You shall live.
And that's my best tip yet.
She has a plan to try to get herself out of this situation, and when that doesn't work, she's able to be a great tamer with Leomon and save the day.
Lady Digimon, activate!
Darkness wave!
But of course, the titular character isn't actually Jerry, it's Kazu, and this is a little weird. Not what's going on with Kazu, the fact that he befriends Andromon, who de-digivolves to Gardromon and ends up getting a Digivice to be his tamer. That's all well and good. But you'd think more of this would be about their budding friendship, their relationship, Kazu helping Gardromon beat Orochimon. But it's entirely a Jerry-centric episode about how Kazu got his partner. And I want to call attention to the fact that these secondary tamers are all having Digimon that are currently at champion level and don't really digivolve or de-digivolve at all. I think this is demonstrating just how much they want the focus to be on the main three tamers as much as they are starting to expand the cast into having more tamers. They don't want to put the time into these Digimon are going to keep digivolving and getting stronger with the rest of them. They're just putting them at a baseline, decently strong level and saying, this is them, this is what this Digimon is. They get to be cool secondary characters, and that's where we leave them, and that's fine. And just a little fun fact here, when they're talking about Orochimon wanting milkshakes this entire time, the original Japanese version was not about milkshakes at all, it was about sake. Almost every time there is some kind of drink like this mentioned in especially like an early 2000s anime, the dub changes it to like milk, milkshakes, pop, something like this, and then it's almost always sake or some other kind of alcoholic beverage. And I kinda wish we got that version where Jerry's just trying to get Orochimon super wasted the entire time she's captured. But that's it for this Digimon Adventure kind of throwback episode of Digimon Tamers. If you're enjoying this journey with me, be sure to hit that follow button and I'll see you next time. I'm making TikTok for all 51 episodes of Digimon Tamers, and it's time to talk about episode 32, Shibumi Speaks, aka here's just a giant lore dump. Just gonna start off with the importance of belief and dreams continuing to show itself here. First with the monster makers explaining to the parents of the Digimon Tamers that it's gonna be hard for any of them to go to the digital world because the way to get there is from a child's belief. And the reason that children are becoming tamers is because of their belief, their imagination, their dreams.
I also think that the bond between the Digimon and the children is based on imagination and belief. You need a child's power of belief to open a gate to the digital world.
The idea of belief is further reinforced as Henry and Takado come to realize that you could swim underwater endlessly, you could breathe underwater in the digital world if you believe you can. It goes so far as to say that they won't even be wet going into the water as long as they don't think they will be wet. This is something that was kind of touched on a couple episodes ago when Rio said that you don't need to eat in the digital world. These are all things where you only need them if you think you do. Takado, Henry, and Terriermon end up at an underwater library, which is just a cool visual that I want to show off right here. But before we get to finding Shibumi in there, I want to bring this up. From near the beginning of the episode, Shibumi's being chased by some dudes and disappears in a puff of smoke, but he doesn't just disappear. He seems to become a Digimon. This is something I don't remember from past watches. It's been a while since I've watched it before. I don't remember if this is ever explained. It really seems like there was a Digimon taking his place in the human world. But back to Shibumi in the digital world, where he's just going to explain a lot of things, but mostly with a lot of questions, or at least with philosophical kind of existential talk.
I'm the one who created you.
We're just as real as you are. You didn't create us.
Are you sure? Maybe you're all dreaming like me.
Once again, the idea of dreams is brought up. He thinks everything here is a dream. He thinks that life is basically nothing but dreams, and brings up the idea that you evolve when you wake up.
Maybe all beings everywhere are dreaming about what they will become. And when we all wake, we will begin our evolution.
Some important facts we get out of this is the Digivices here are actually called D-Arcs, and one of their functions is to connect kindred partners. This is why it is connecting the Digimon Tamers to a Digimon. It goes even further in this, explaining this partnership in that it might be on some level that the Digimon were created by the Diginomes to be partnered with these Tamers. And of course, again, getting existential, getting philosophical, it's did Tokado actually dream up Gilmon, or did Gilmon dream himself up with the Diginomes kind of putting that dream into Kado's head? We learn the Diginomes are not Digimon at all. They're actually evolved on their own from the digital world, in the same way that so many different species kind of grew in the real world, the human world. The digital world is home to more things than just Digimon. They evolved naturally over time. And hey, those blue cards? The blue cards are actually an algorithm meant to help the Digimon digivolve on their own. Interesting here that those cards are what allowed the Tamers to be Tamers. It is as though the digital world has decided the best way for the Digimon to digivolve on their own is to connect with a child partner. And then there's the Sovereign. We learn that there's 4 of them. We learn that they're the 4 mythical beasts, same kind of setup as Digimon Adventure 02. We even get a quick reference to Digimon Adventure 02.
If they're like a Zulonmon from the TV show, they must be huge.
And the idea is brought up that maybe the Digimon Sovereign aren't all evil. Maybe the idea is that they're trying to evolve to a higher level to fight back some other force. We don't hear what that force is. We don't even hear this concretely, but it's brought up. And I think that's about everything. There's a really dense 5 minutes where it's just here's information, here's information, here's information. But I think I covered at least all the important things here. This is a tough one to talk about because there's not really story for the episode to talk about. It's just a big lore dump. It's just, here is information on all of the things. But that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed. Hit that follow button if you want to continue this Digimon adventure with me, and I'll see you next time. I'm making TikTok for all 51 episodes of Digimon Tamers, and it's time to talk about episode 33, Rabbit Transit. And after the last one was nothing but lore, this one's essentially nothing but cuteness. We're focusing in on Susie, and she ends up in the digital world. The Diginome spends some time bringing Susie to Antilamon, which already shows there's going to be some kind of importance here. And the two start bonding pretty quickly. Antilamon acts like she doesn't really want to do anything with Susie, but very quickly gives in. Susie wants to go running. All right, Antilamon's gonna run.
Antilamon, that was cool! Hey, can you do anything else?
Trust me, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Susie is just wearing Antilamon out with all of this. It's all so exciting, but Antilamon is still just wanting to get back to her post. Until that is, Susie is in trouble, and Antilamon has to help. First of all, giant bunny with huge battle axes for hands, badass as fuck. But second of all, by the time this fight is over, if we haven't realized it already, we find out that Antilamon is in fact the 12th Devo. We have now seen all 12 and can complete our list. And of course, the Diginomes aren't going to lead Susie here for nothing. It turns out that Antilamon is Susie's partner. But we can't have Susie with a huge ultimate level Deva Digimon. Seemingly, the Sovereign takes away Antilamon's ultimate level and reduces her down to Lotmon, which just brings some fun of Lotmon and Terriermon being like, oh my god, we look the same. This is a fun one that plays on a trope that a lot of seasons of Digimon play with, and well, a lot of works of this nature kind of play with. And that's the idea, that final member of the team that started as a bad guy. And this is, like I said, just a fun variation on it, because we didn't see Antilamon as this horrible, no good, killing everybody kind of character. Antilamon right away, even though she's working for the Sovereign, we're seeing, no, she's good. And that's an interesting little twist on this, because we are touching on a trope that's so similar to Gatomon, who was working with Myotismon, or the Digimon Emperor, who turned out to be controlled by the dark spores and everything, or hell, the Green Power Ranger, who was being controlled by Repulsa. Because Antilamon was always shown as good, never really doing anything bad, just working for the Sovereign, this nice fun episode is reinforcing this idea that the Sovereign might not be all bad, kind of getting us ready for any reveals that are about to come. But that's it for this episode. If you're enjoying this, be sure to hit that follow button to continue on this Digimon adventure with me, and I'll see you next time. I'm making TikTok for all 51 episodes of Digimon Tamers, and it's time to talk about episode 34, Lionheart. Remember the previous episode where everything was just really lighthearted and fun and nothing bad's gonna happen whatsoever? Those were good times. Alright, let's start off with a little bit of lore that's dropped here. Calumon is the light that allows Digimon to digivolve. We had an idea of this for a while, at least that Calumon has the power to help Digimon digivolve, but here we're learning that he's not really a Digimon himself. He was created from this light. He is like the personification of this light. Or I guess, Digimonification of this light.
Keeper of the light, you must know you're not a Digimon like the others. You have a power inside you, a power we need.
There's no way I'm giving you my insides. I am too a Digimon.
Once you were the light that gave us the power to digivolve. You must become that light again.
But the major things we have to talk about for this episode come down to the partnerships of Jerry and Leomon and Takato and Gilmon. This episode has everyone coming back together in order to fight Beelzemon. And before they come back together, I have just a quick moment I want to show off, and that's the fact that Growlmon is with the rest of the group where Takato's not. And this is interesting because I could be wrong about this, but I think this is the only instance in a Digimon show that it's apparently possible for the Digimon to digivolve without their tamer, Digidestined, etc. around to help them. But let's get into the more devastating things. First, with Leomon expressing why Jerry is so great as a partner.
But I'm not strong at all, especially for a tamer. I'm sorry you have to be stuck with me, Leomon.
Jerry, you have the true heart of a lion. That's all you need. It's not strength or power that makes a good partner, it's heart. Besides, there's no one else I'd rather be with.
And where this ends is Jerry no longer being Leomon's partner, because there is no longer a Leomon. And Takato's struggling with his partnership this entire episode, starting with when he first sees Growlmon again and he wonders if Gilmon, Growlmon, etc. are just data. He could just be deleted, right? Maybe he's not real enough. Maybe he'll lose him, and this is already starting to scare him. As things are getting more intense with Beelzemon, Takato is kind of losing himself to anger, which is interesting because it's kind of in the exact same way Takato is always worried about Gilmon doing. With every evolution, there's at least a moment where Takato's like, oh my god, is he just a monster now? And speaking of Gilmon maybe becoming a monster, Takato forces Gilmon to digivolve, just demands it happen.
You cannot lose! I won't allow it! I order you to digivolve! Digivolve! Now!
And it works. He does digivolve. He goes beyond War Growlmon to his mega level, Megadramon. And there's a couple things to take from this. For example, this is a dark digivolution. We've seen something like this in the original Digimon Adventure when Greymon became Skull Greymon. And in this case, it's kind of a similar circumstance of it being a digivolution coming from forcing it rather than from a more positive emotion. In this case with Digimon Tamers, most of the digivolution, most of the connection, the power, all comes from dreams. This is not dreams. This is not hope. This is not anything positive. It's pure force. And because this all comes out of anger and spite and just pretty much all the opposite of hope, well, this is what we get. And what's most interesting here is in both of the partnerships I said I wanted to talk about here, we see a reaction from the Digivices. When Leomon dies, we see Jerry's Digivice go all staticky. But after War Growlmon becomes Megadramon, we see Takato's Digivice shatter. If we take the lesson we learned a couple episodes ago that the Digivices are meant to connect kindred spirits, well then these different reactions tell us a lot. Because Jerry's just becoming staticky is like it just can't connect to the other half of this kindred spirit partnership. But Takato's completely shattering and going away is like they are no longer kindred partners. They are no longer connected in any way. Takato and Megadramon are not together in this. But only good things can happen from here on out, right? Megadramon fighting Beelzemon, nothing bad's gonna happen here. Nothing bad's gonna happen for the rest of the series. I'm sure of it. But that's it for this episode of Digimon Tamers. Be sure to hit that follow button if you want to continue this Digimon adventure with me, and I'll see you next time. I make a TikTok for all 51 episodes of Digimon Tamers, and it's time to talk about episode 35. Give a little bit. And let's start off with something small here, because we're establishing something in this episode that hasn't been set up before. All through the early episodes of Digimon Tamers, Renamon was absorbing the data of Digimon that she defeated in battle. What we never saw then, but we're seeing now, is Beelzemon absorbed the data of the Digimon he defeated, and then he could use their moves, and in fact has parts of them inside of him, trying to get out. Now this works as like a body horror image of everything going on with Beelzemon, but it's also just an important little element to remember for the future. But let's get into Megadramon and what he seems to represent. It's been hinted at and vaguely talked about for a while that Digimon, the digital world, all of this is like dreams turned into reality. And Megadramon is completely tearing this place apart. Megadramon was of course created from hatred, anger, spite, all these awful emotions, this corruption of a dream. And this corruption goes so far as it could corrupt the entirety of the digital world.
Oh no! Look at Megidramon! I think he's responsible for this. I should have realized it before. That's a hazard sign in his chest. He can destroy the whole digital world.
And even in this episode, we're calling back to the original creation of Gilmon, where Takado's making Gilmon a virus type just because he thinks it'd be cool. And especially as Jerry calls Takado out for being the cause of this, it really seems like we're talking about this internalized hatred that's kind of inside of him, or at least a possibility of what could come out of him.
I know, I don't like it either.
Stop! Huh? Don't come near me. Gilmon was so sweet and cute, and look what you did to him.
Basically, it is a strong argument that Takado could probably use some therapy. But when Megadramon is defeated, Takado is taking everything back. He wants to be Gilmon's partner again. He wants Gilmon. And not just any version of Gilmon, not starting over with a new version of him, not a new partner. He wants his Gilmon, which gives us one of the weirdest looking scenes, at least so far in the series, where we got the CG Gilmon all over the place. But after getting Gilmon back, Takado has a realization that if he could only fight with Gilmon, they would be more powerful than they ever could be apart. And it happens. He wishes, and they come together as Gallantmon. This is a kid becoming one with his hopes, his dreams, all the possibilities, all of his beliefs. I feel like there's a strong argument that if the Digimon are their dreams, to fuse with them in this way, to have this biomerge happen, is kind of like a child fully believing in themselves. And now it's time for round 2 with Beelzemon. We'll see how it goes in the next one. If you're enjoying this, be sure to hit that follow button to continue this Digimon adventure with me, and I'll see you next time. I'm back at TikTok for all 51 episodes of Digimon Tamers, and it's time to talk about episode 36, The Battle Within. Now, this episode is primarily about the battle between Beelzemon and Gallantmon, but first I just want to quickly touch on the fact that Katsuramon is sent after Lopmon to defeat her for being a traitor. But Gallantmon comes in and defeats Katsuramon, meaning the only Deva left is Lopmon. But getting into the fight itself, Gallantmon's gonna win. Gallantmon is gonna kick all the ass to the point that it looks like Gallantmon is gonna kill Beelzemon. The only thing that stops him is Jerry begging him not to.
I don't get it. Why are you protecting me? I destroyed your partner.
I hate you for doing that. But even if you died, it wouldn't bring Leomon back. It's my fault he's gone. And if you destroyed each other, then that would be my fault too. I just can't let anyone else get hurt because of me.
Now, this is a thing that's building throughout the entire episode. Jerry just being destroyed by the fact that she wasn't strong enough to be a good tamer for Leomon. That she blames herself for Leomon being dead.
I can't believe you're gone. It's my fault. I wasn't strong enough to be your tamer. Oh, Leomon. I'm so sorry.
This is such a big and important moment for Jerry and for Beelzemon too, because it makes him really reflect on his entire life. We spend about a quarter of the episode's runtime just kind of flashing back to everything Impmon's been up to in the series so far. From the fact that he had 2 partners but thought he was just being used by them, to how much he rebelled against all humans because of this, and how much he sought only power because he thought power was the most important thing. Eventually getting to the point that he made a deal with the Sovereign to get more power, believing that will finally make him happy. But as he's seeing here, that's not enough to make him happy. Going so far as to end with him saying,
I am nothing now.
Oh, and of course Takado gets what looks like an upgraded version of his Digivice because of the fact that his old one broke. And thanks to Rio and Cyberdramon, we have a little tease that something bigger's coming.
I'm sensing the presence of a new opponent, more powerful than we've ever seen.
And yet you're not running over me to find him. It's not like you. This one must be really bad.
But that's it for this episode of Digimon Tamers. If you're enjoying this and want to continue this Digimon adventure with me, hit that follow button. I'll see you next time. I'm making TikTok for all 51 episodes of Digimon Tamers, and it's time to talk about episode 37, No Mon is an Island. And just to start things off light, I want to give line of the episode to Gardramon for this unintentional burn right here.
I haven't even started dating. I've got to deal with 2 sad girls.
Once you start dating, I'm sure you'll make many girls sad.
What?
Won't you?
This episode is seeing Jerry sink even further into sadness as she tries to deal with the fact that Leomon is gone.
Why don't you wait here, and when we come back, we can all go home?
All of us? Except for Leomon, you mean? Jerry, he's never coming back, is he?
But this is really just a continuing thread that we can't really dwell on too much because the episode is primarily focused on Henry, and specifically Henry's overprotective instincts. We've seen this come out a lot, especially in the early episodes, where this overprotectiveness was keeping him from wanting Terriermon to get into any fights. He just can't have Terriermon be hurt. Now it's coming out even more intensely with the possibility that Susie might get hurt. This goes so far that he almost turns violent to his sister to try to keep her out of danger. Throughout the early parts of this episode, Henry is talking as though he is the one who specifically has to defeat the Sovereign. He has to save everybody, or else what's going to happen to Susie? But he has to work through this and acknowledge the fact that the others are there too. The others will help. He isn't all alone in this, and even though he has these instincts to be protective, he still has to rely on them. And it's as he comes to this realization, he is able to biomerge with Terriermon and become Mega Gargomon.
What are you, Henry, the center of the universe? What, you think the sun won't rise if you're not there to greet it or something?
What are you talking about?
Just look behind you, Henry.
Huh?
You don't have to do everything yourself. They're all here to help you. Let them.
We're seeing in both biomerging cases so far that it is about the tamer working through something within themselves, where Takato had to work through this anger that's a part of him, and Henry now having to deal with this overprotectiveness. We're seeing it's not just the closeness to the Digimon that is allowing them to combine together in this way, but their ability to become stronger themselves, and really work through their biggest faults. It looks like Mega Gargomon defeats this Sovereign, but he is a phoenix after all, so he comes rising from the ashes, ready to fight for round 2. Do the Tamers stand a chance in this fight? Lotmon seems to think that the connection between humans and Digimon can be more powerful than anything else, so maybe. We'll just have to wait till next time, and be sure to hit that follow button to not miss when that happens. I'll see you next time. I'm making a TikTok for all 51 episodes of Digimon Tamers, and it's time to talk about episode 38, A Zulongmon Explains It All. And this episode title is a lie because Shibumi comes in to explain part of it, but I'll get to that in a bit. This is another incredibly lore-heavy episode, and as we're approaching the end of the series, that makes sense. They have to explain what all this has been building to and what this final enemy is really going to be. We can start off with A Zulongmon coming in to save the Tamers and having a big debate about what the nature of the Digimon and Digivolution really is. If Digivolution is the right move going forward against this enemy, or if teaming up with the humans is the best way to do this.
Digimon were meant to be free from humans. It is our right. It is our destiny.
Now who's being arrogant? What if you're wrong? Look at how powerful a creature was created when humans and Digimon digivolved together. Maybe that is our destiny. Maybe that's what will save us from our true enemy.
Takato decides the best way to prove that a Zulongmon is right is to fuse with Gilmon into Gallantmon once again and join this fight himself. But we don't get to see how this fight's gonna end because a Zulongmon tells them to cut it out, they have to join together. A Zulongmon then starts to explain the makeup of the digital world, giving us a better idea of how everything's really laid out. Where the barren desert area we saw the most is the closest section of the digital world to the human plane.
Imagine this hole is the real world, surrounded by the layers that make up the digital world. Its physical substructure is 6 layers deep. That's where you first arrived. In the beginning, this is all there was to the digital world. It was empty, stark, inhospitable. The early Digimon, our ancestors, lived on that physical layer with the Diginomes and the true enemy.
Talk about a full house.
Oh, sorry.
In those early days, the true enemy destroyed many of our ancestors and Diginomes. Those were dark times indeed.
Beyond that are more layers, and beyond that are completely separate planes that are just different places we saw within the digital world. The more water world, the clock world, all these other places. And then above all of that is where the Sovereign make their home. Speaking of the Sovereign, we see a third of them as Rio is actually looking for the fourth.
Psst, ask him.
Okay, Mr. Ernesto Eager. Hey, do you know what it means when you dream you're riding in a fountain, pouring a glass of juice and going over a waterfall?
I've had enough of this talking. It's time to fight.
Rio thinks he's looking for one of the Sovereign for a fight, but really, he's looking for this great and powerful enemy that does not have a name at this point that he knows about. But luckily, Shibumi comes in to the other Digimon Tamers to explain that this is the D-Reaper.
Yeah, but what exactly is it?
When the network was first created, a program was designed to control the growth of artificial intelligence. The D-Reaper deleted any AI programs that exceeded their original parameters.
The D-Reaper's been around as long as the digital world has, but Shibumi explains this was never supposed to be an unbelievably super powerful thing. It shouldn't be able to take on things like the Sovereign unless, turns out the D-Reaper has been absorbing the power of these Digimon and actually getting more powerful than any of them. The D-Reaper exists to keep the Digimon from getting too powerful, to keep them from digivolving this far. In a lot of ways, the D-Reaper is the complete opposite of Calamon, who is continued to be called the catalyst here, because it turns out the Diginomes are the ones that change Calamon from just this ability to digivolve to a Digimon himself, or at least something like a Digimon. And when we think about where this whole series started, especially with Rika and Renamon and their desire to become so powerful, to digivolve, to do all these things, and that's exactly where things are right here. It's all about this question of, is digivolving the most important thing? Is getting more power the most important thing? Well, the D-Reaper is here to say they are all too powerful and destroy them all. But that's it for this episode of Digimon Tamers. Be sure to hit that follow button to continue this Digimon adventure with me, and I'll see you next time. I'm Mickey TikTok for all 51 episodes of Digimon Tamers, and it's time to talk about episode 39, Song of Sequoiamon. In this episode, we're seeing the D-Reaper come into play and make itself known in the form of this chaos, this goo that destroys anything it touches. Ryu meets the fourth Sovereign, and we see that a Sovereign stood no chance in a fight against this chaos. And later on, we see even that Shachalmon stood no chance. The Sovereign are not strong enough to take this thing on, setting the challenge for all this as high as it could be. But before anyone could leave, they have to save Calamon, both for the fact that they love Calamon, and Calamon is really important to Digivolution. So the Sovereign want him saved too. While everything looks incredibly dangerous, there seems to be a bottomless pit with chaos coming up out of it, Rika still decides she's gonna go down and save Calamon herself. Renamon follows, followed by Ryu and Cyberdramon, who have rejoined the team. And she does it! She succeeds! She gets Calamon! She saves his life. But right after that, the chaos is running a little more rampant.
We can choose our own destiny, right?
Yes.
And I choose to stay and fight with you.
And Rika decides to take a leap of faith with Renamon to join this fight and becomes Sequoiamon. Now, I've already talked about how Gallantmon and Mega Gargomon are Takato and Henry working through their own personal struggles in order to fully become themselves as they combine with their Digimon. And Rika is no different, although I feel like her journey has been going on for far longer. Rika started the series only concerned about power and herself, but now she's doing all this to save her friends, and most specifically save Jerry because of how sad she is right now. She's asking Renamon these questions about destiny and if we could change destiny, and more specifically, sadly, if they could change Leomon's destiny, although it's too late for that because it's already happened. And design-wise, it's worth mentioning that Sequoiamon is incredibly feminine, which is something that Rika fights against. She does not want to show any kind of femininity at all. But here, as we're seeing her more fully realized, as we're seeing her bioemerged with her Digimon to create this mega level, we're seeing the power of this femininity. While they block off the chaos for a moment, it erupts like a geyser, and it is raining down all over the digital world, presumably. We only see this one plane, but I think it's safe to assume it's all over the place. And we see a little bit of the chaos land near Jerry. After Jerry has spent this whole episode feeling like she's destined to be alone, destined to fail at everything. This word destiny keeps coming up in this episode, and now this chaos is so close to her. This is not good and is going to continue to build as the rest of the show goes. But that's it for this episode. If you're enjoying this, be sure to hit that follow button to continue this Digimon adventure with me, and I will see you next time. I'm Mickey TikTok for all 51 episodes of Digimon Tamers, and it's time to talk about episode 40, Jean Yu's arc. This is another one where there's a lot to talk about, so we're gonna have to move pretty quickly. First of all, the Sovereign asked Calamon to use his power to allow all the Digimon to become Mega level, and he does it. He uses his shining light of Digivolution, and all the Digimon across the digital world become Mega to help fight back the D-Reaper. We also see all the Sovereign together for the first time, and I just want to point out that I absolutely love their designs. But while we're talking about this moment where Calamon uses his shining light, I want to point out the parallel scene where all the adults in the human world are using their computers to get the kids back to the human world. These are both done in such similar ways that visually it's telling us all the Digimon are coming together to save the digital world and all the humans are coming together to save the human world. Or at least to save these kids who will come and save the human world. And amongst all these Mega level Digimon is Marine Angemon, who seems to have gone some kind of connection to Kenta immediately. But Marine Angemon flies away. I'm sure we'll never see them again. Jerry being next to that little bit of chaos in the previous episode is coming through a little bit more here as she has brought the puppet back. We haven't seen her with the puppet in a little while and it's turning a little creepy.
So sad.
What a sad little Digimon. It's not necessary, you know. Sadness can be deleted. Huh? Let's go find the way.
And unfortunately, the others aren't seeming to notice anything's up.
Jerry, what were you doing over here? Jerry? Bathroom, I'll bet.
We have Rika and Renamon desperate to save Impmon, because especially after bioemerging with each other, they have so much compassion. They want to save everybody, and why not start with just one little Impmon?
It's a little overwhelming. There are so many people who need our help.
We'll start with Impmon, because every wave begins with a drop of water.
And of course he is just Impmon now because he is so devastated by what he has done, so haunted by how he has made Jerry feel, that he has given up his power. He wanted to be attacked until he became Impmon again and is no longer Beelzemon.
Take back the power! I don't want it!
But the race is on because there is only one shot at getting into the Ark, and Renamon, Rika, and Impmon seem to be nowhere near it. Can they make it inside so everybody could get back to the human world? We're gonna have to wait till next time to find out. If you're enjoying this, be sure to hit that follow button to continue this Digimon adventure with me, and I will see you next time.